Good evening, all. Welcome to the first stream, I guess, of 2025. Even though we're 3 weeks in now, days wise. Yeah, I'm a little bit behind, but managed to get one video out last week, and I have been working all day on the next video for you guys, which is going to be a bit of a monster. It looks like it's going to run to about 18 minutes. But good to see everyone. Good evening to Zavath, to Del Kenobi, Wooter, Julio, sorry, Jadomo, Stakargord, Jammy Bugger, and Edison. Welcome in, and thanks for popping along. Yeah, I guess I'm going to be a little bit behind the times in this talk because I want to talk about what your experiences are of 4.0, given the fact that the video that is coming next week is my experiences of 4.0. So it'll be really interesting to get people's kind of feelings. I wanted to react a little bit today to some of the things I've seen on Facebook, although I don't want to show the posts because like people's names will appear and stuff like that. But we will react to some of that stuff as well. And then basically we'll have a look at a couple of the news bits. If I can find it in time, what I'd also really like to do by the end of the stream is have a look at some of what CIG said about server meshing, given the fact that we are now currently experiencing the first iteration. So I guess whilst we're talking, if you guys are happy to, it would be great to see you in the chat start to mention a little bit about 4.0 and what your experiences have been, whether you think it's being successful or not, and basically your thoughts, so we can start a conversation. Just while I search through the history and try to see what I can find and figure out. See if I can find this long lost. That's very white. Let's see if we can minimize that a bit. Crikey, that's exceptionally light, isn't it? I should have probably put that on dark mode before we started. But that's okay, because I'm going to pop through anyway. Search history. Let's see if I can find something even better. So hopefully it's coming through okay. I can see my levels are working. I just want to make sure that you guys are kind of seeing the same thing. There we go, we found it. And that horrible white background, there you go, should clear, and we're on. Good stuff. Yeah, wouldn't it just can? Yeah, absolutely. I feel a little bit blinded, if I'm being honest. It's doing what it normally does on, just changing the topic slightly, it's doing what it normally does on a Sunday, which is, despite the fact that I've tried to get the notification out, it's taking a little bit of time for the kind of stream to populate and for things to catch up. There is some good news on the horizon, though. So, finally, hacked off with the fact that I have low upload and download rates. What I'm doing, or what will be installed on the 31st of January, is full fiber gigabit internet, which should massively improve the quality of these streams, should enable me, hopefully, to get some gameplay going on stream as well, so we can start doing some of that sort of stuff, and just generally be able to download and upload faster. So that I think that's going to improve a lot of stuff. That's really kind of exciting from my point of view. 31st that will be in, which is the Friday. So the first we'll see of it is, well, hopefully at Friday Night Ops, but certainly the Sunday stream should be a lot better. So that's cool. Zava says, I have fiber, you're going to love it. Huge difference. Yeah, it's been a long old time, and because full fiber's only just become available here, so for the faff of changing over, the little increase of speed I could get wasn't worth it. Full fiber is now available in my area, and they came on Saturday morning at ridiculous o'clock in the morning. They've done some of the pre-work outside, but they're not yet ready to install until the 31st. So that's cool. Stukargord says, I haven't been playing for many weeks. Too busy with parenting responsibilities. They suck. Yeah, I wouldn't know. I'm not kind of finished being a kid yet myself, Stack, if I'm being honest. So I would have no knowledge of such things. Wooter says, 4.0 hasn't treated me great. Kind of on and off with how it runs. There's just too many bugs, as expected, of a pushed out preview. Yeah, I think that's a really good... point to raise, and I don't want to start the year on too many negative videos, but I guess we can talk about this in the stream because you guys know that I'll call things as they see them, as I always have done. They've made big of the fact in the past that they will only ever release stuff when it's ready, and yet we have 4.0 preview pushed out rather than just a ready patch. And there's a couple of other things anecdotally that have happened as well. For example, a lot of the Polaris feels incomplete. And what I'll say about that is, what I'll clarify about that is not just the captain's cabin, although that was a big part of it. It's also the offices on the either side, so the one for the brig and the one for the med space. If you look at all of the detail that was in the Carrick's medical bay, for example, that detail and that that interest, the investment in the space isn't there in the Polaris. The same with the brig. They could have done a lot more with that. And a lot of that feels like it's going to be something that comes later when they do like a pass years and years down the road, that all of a sudden there'll be really cool, really good spaces. But it just feels a little bit rushed. And it's the same with 4.0. Now with 4.0, I think they were a little bit between a rock and a hard place. Having said initially at CitizenCon, I'm going to say last year, but that's not right now, this is 2 years ago. So CitizenCon 2023, they said they wanted it out in June. Then it got pushed to Q3, then it got pushed to the end of the year. And it got a little bit like, they had to put something out. And this, I think, sometimes is the rock and the hard place bit that I talk about, which is, on the one hand, they want to release stuff when it's ready. On the other hand, they know how much of an upset it would have caused within the community if they didn't release it. So, I don't know. And I think, to be honest, I would have been guilty. If they'd not released it, I would have been upset. I'm not particularly happy with the way 4.0 is at the minute, but we'll cover that in a little bit. I'll just catch up with some comments. Cat says 4.0 has been so many things, inconsistent. It's made me not that interested in sinking hours into it, as SC isn't fun when you can't get your friends in the game to join you. Yeah, absolutely. Wooter says, I don't mean it as a negative, however, I preferred they waited till it was ready. Yeah, and it's really interesting, right? You get part of the community is, I don't want it till it's ready. Part of the community is just give it to us now. And then you get the weird part, which is it should be perfect right now. And it's like, that's not going to work for any development game. Good evening, socially. Good to see you. Jadomo says, 4.0 has been very hit and miss patch for me, but I did expect it to be rough without the transit refactor. It was obvious it would suffer from interaction delay from the tech preview builds. Yeah, there's been some really... So I had a moment the other day. I was trying out Pyro, and I'd gone in a Spirit to try and get some like scenery shots for the video that I'm working on at the minute, and I landed and I held down Y to get out of the seat and nothing happened. So I was like, oh, maybe this is interaction lag. So I went external, pressed I, and the engines didn't switch off. So I was like, oh, all right, well, I can still control the ship. So I took off and flew off and started doing some low flying stuff. And about 5 minutes later, 300 meters off the deck, my engine turned off and I got out of the seat. So it'd taken literally about 5 minutes for those commands to go through, and it just happened. Luckily, I'd switched the engines back on quickly, so as we're falling out the sky, the engines went back on, the kind of, IFCS caught us, and I was just hanging and spinning in midair in this Spirit, and the seat wouldn't let me back in. So that was the end of that game session, because at that point I was just like, do you know what? I'd rather play Solitaire. So yeah, there's lots of that sort of stuff. They could have just released server meshing as 325 or something, says Wooter. Jadomo says, it's possible, though, they needed the patch to be soak tested in live to get the data they need to build the transit refactor. Yeah, it was interesting, and I guess this will take us quite nicely onto one of the things that I saw on Facebook. I was reading a post, it was someone had posted on one of the Star Citizen communities about how there were problems with 4.0. And what was really interesting was that person, or someone responded and said, the servers are historically as bad as they've ever been. And my first thought was, here's someone who didn't play during 3.18 for a start. Because it's not as bad as 3.18. But then my second thought was, he's right, because they've never historically been this bad, but they've also never historically been this good. Because this is different. This isn't the same server architecture. The game's never run like this before. So to make straight up comparisons between the servers as they are now and the servers as they were doesn't make sense. It's not a fair comparison. It's apples and oranges, right? I know I'm probably going to get some blowback on this, but bear with me. This is going somewhere. You know, if server meshing, as I said when we talked about this before Christmas, you've always got to be prepared for things to break. The fact that all that is broken is interactions and missions and you know, getting ships out of hangars and stuff. The fact that that's all that's broken is actually kind of a minor miracle. There's no other games done this in this way. No other games can you be on one server and fire at and interact with people on another server in real time, watching all it happen like you were on the same server. That doesn't happen. If it does happen, it's in exceptionally small games where it doesn't matter, right? It's not on this scale. So there isn't anyone out there. You know, if you're going to integrate, say, I don't know, ray tracing into your game, and it's the first time you're doing it, what you would do as a company is you would put out a couple of adverts for people with ray tracing experience, and you bring them on board because they have the experience, they've seen the mistakes made, they've got this wealth of experience, so they can avoid the common pitfalls and that sort of stuff. The problem with server meshing is no one's done it before. So Star Citizen, Cloud Imperium Games, are going to have to go through every mistake, every pitfall, every silly thing face first. Because there's no one else. These are the people who will be providing experience to the rest of the industry if the industry decide to take something like this on once they've proved the technology properly. Not just, oh, look, it works, 6 servers. I never thought I'd minimize it like this, but 6 servers in a shard and people jumping between each of them. Because that's what it looks like at the moment, is each shard is comprised of 6 servers. You know, so I think it's really interesting that they've had that experience, right? Or that they're having to build that experience internally by making every single mistake you can possibly make because they don't know not to make them, and there's no other industry source of knowledge. So I think that's probably worth looking at some point. Right, catching up because I've done a lot of talking and not a lot of responding stuff. So Wouter says, from devs that I see in certain streamers chat, I understand not all members are back from holidays yet. So still some missing people from CIG that have to return. Yeah, 100%. You know, and thank God for that. Thank God they're getting some leave and they're getting to enjoy the stuff. You know, I'm sure some people had to work late given the problems with 4.0 on launch. So yeah, I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily. Jammy says, I made my first jump into Pyro last week. Smooth and an incredible experience. Got all the way to Bloom, then it started chugging, crashed and burned. I'll come back to it around Invictus. Funny enough, I've spent some time on Bloom in the last couple of days. So yeah, I get it. That jump, oh my god, that jump. And you guys will probably know, but I'll say it again anyway, just in case we've got any lurkers or people who don't know. I haven't touched any of it. I've even stayed away from streams that were in 4.0 until I got to try it myself. Because what I didn't want to do is burn out on it. I find a lot with content that comes in Star Citizen is people, especially those that don't have access to it at the time, will watch a lot of it. And then by the time they get to it, it already feels stale. And I just didn't want to do it. I wanted my first experience of that jump tunnel in the 4.0 preview to be my first experience, not watching it through someone else's stream. And yeah, funny enough, I managed to capture that entire sequence in the upcoming video, so you'll get to watch it, and I'll let you know when that goes live. I was kind of hoping to have it out at 7 o'clock this evening, and then I realised that that wasn't going to happen, and I was kind of hoping to be able to premiere it immediately after the stream. And I'm not there yet with it. It needs work. I wouldn't be happy releasing it right now. So it's coming soon. TM. So let's have a look. Ray, good evening, buddy. Good to see you. Can says, I'm worried that the soak test is going to be misleading, as I know so many people have jumped in and then shortly left afterwards, as it's not possible. Yeah, and I've seen comments like this as well on Facebook about how, it doesn't make sense that they're going to leave it. They should have left it. And I think one of the things is, oh, that's right. The comment was something about that we're effectively doing their jobs for them and we're saving them maybe millions or thousands in QA testers and stuff. And I think that kind of misunderstands the idea of a stress test and having enough people online to actually break it, as we found with 318. That was effectively gamers DDoSing their server that told them who had what permissions for what ship. So that, right? There's not much that sometimes you just need a bunch of gamers to come on and try and break your game. And that's what we're doing. So yeah. If people find 318 bad, they haven't seen 314 or 315 every 15 minute at 30k. Yeah, I stopped playing around 14 and 15 for a while. I really struggled with that too. It wasn't a fun experience at all. I'm just going to turn that around because my arm keeps disappearing. Right, it's a little bit worrying. It's okay. It's still there. I'll add. How about a little more light? There we go. Fixed it. Ta-da! Cool. So yeah, I agree, Wooter. It's rough. Try not being able to play for half a year, mostly because of broken patches. Yeah, and I mean, this is the thing, right? Is that, I think people were looking to call 4.0 318. 318 was, for a patch, taken as a patch, it was singularly, when, anything is better than no access, I would suggest. If you can't get into the game at all, that's really, really rough. I think what Wooter's saying about 14 and 15, that was a very tough period. That was probably the longest that the servers were shitty. So yeah, I think, you've got kind of this, it's not a race to the bottom, is I guess what I'm saying. But yeah, and I don't feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, it might just be my experience, but I don't feel like 4.0 is either of those things. It doesn't feel like a 14 or 15. It also is nowhere near an 18. So yeah. Judamo says, it's always a problem with the PTU as well, but I'd rather they get Transit Refactor right now with 600 players than have to rework it at 1,000 plus players. Yeah, I think there's actually something coming on in the server meshing and persistent streaming Q&A that I pulled up out of nowhere. Just stumbled across it while I was looking for something else. And I think it's probably worth having a look at now that it's in, to see where the direction is going. Because everything's focused on what's going on right now, not necessarily, where this is headed. John Chavez, good evening, bud. Good to see you. It is a fair comparison. Why? Because the player experience is the player experience, regardless of what is causing the problem. Yeah, I get that as a point. However, the bit that I said that wasn't a fair comparison is the servers have never been this bad. And it's like, you're talking about one patch. It would be like, saying this patch is the worst that the Terrapin Medic has ever been. Functionally correct. It's also the best the Terrapin Medic has ever been, because it's only been in this patch. Do you see what I mean? So that's what I mean about it not being a fair comparison, is that to say that this is awful, or, if that's the experience that someone's having, that's fair. I get that. To try and say that this is historically easily comparable to what the servers were doing, to label the servers as the cause, is obviously not. That doesn't make sense, right? So that. But yeah. 4.0 sucks, it is, and nice. Wooter says, I might actually have a break from SC after next week. I'm planning on getting Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Nice. For the PC and play it to death. Do you have time off work planned? That would be good. But yeah, very cool. I spoiled Edison's first experience, yeah, because he watched the footage of me going through the wormhole. Well, boo-hoo. You shouldn't have watched. So there. Yeah, and this is the thing is if we're gonna step away from like the emotional I can't play my game stuff, right? It's completely understandable that bringing in a whole new back end, a whole new way of the servers meshing, and yes, whilst there was some of that in the 324 point patches, we were still running on one server, so it actually didn't make that much of a difference. Now that we're running on 6 servers per shard, we are, it's understandable that some of that is going to break. It's the first real stress test that they've had, um, apart from very short, like 1, 2, or 3 hour exposures, which has solved some of the problems. But obviously now, what I would imagine, some of what they're finding is this cumulative effects of having so many people, and therefore the effects of so many people, wrecks, lost, dropped items, all that sort of stuff, that actually there are other problems coming out of this. It's also not a great excuse when you're really not enjoying the game. And that those things being in the works and working doesn't mean that you should enjoy the game. And both and the two statements aren't mutually exclusive. Yes, it is understandable that the game's in the state it is in at the minute, but at the same time, it's perfectly viable to be hacked off with it, to rage about it a bit, and to want a break. And going back to precisely what you were saying, Auto, is breaks are the most healthy thing you can do with Star Citizen. Is the minute you stop enjoying it, is to give it a break. I think that works. Soriak, hello everybody. Good evening, Soriak. Good to see you, my friend. Obviously not. Some people don't agree with me because we've just dropped 3 viewers after I've tried to be a little bit positive about the game. But hey, if people are here just for me shitting all over 4.0, you're in the wrong place. I will be critical where it's needed, but I'll also try and look at why things are happening and not just salt farm. We don't salt farm here. 318 says Wooter was perfect for me in the PTU. The problem was no one was interested in playing in the PTU. Yeah, I think I've had a lot of bad experiences with PTU and stuff, so I generally tend to leave it. I have tried the hotfix patch. The problem is that I wanted to do something specific with the Polaris, and the loner matrix has not been updated in the PTU. So those with the Perseus in live get a Polaris as the loner. If you're in the hotfix, you don't. You still get the hammerhead. So I was like, I'll go back to live then. So yeah, unfortunate, but that's what it is. I did pop a message into in the development chat, so hopefully they're going to look at that and update it. That should literally be a line of code, but I would imagine we won't see a fix on that until we get 0.1. Yeah, so that's that. Sheva says, I'm not saying it was bad it was ever been. Conclusion is correct. Just that it is fair to comparison in the first place. I think, yeah, to summarize, what I was responding to in that was what that specific person said, which is the servers have never been this bad, which they've never been like this. So yes, that is functionally, as a statement, that is technically correct. It would also be at exactly the same time technically correct to say they've never been that good, because they've never been like that. We've never had them linked together. So, like, to then say it was, that these servers somehow are a reflection of, server performance degrading as the patches have gone on, well, that doesn't make sense because, yeah. So that's basically what I was getting at. Khan says, the worst part, if they finally get a stable 4.1 and actually get big player numbers, I expect the fixes for Rex and Trash and all will also need a second go around of fixing. Yeah, and everything will need. Everything's just going to need revisiting. One of the things that I've said multiple times, and I will stand by, is that the only thing that, it is madness to think that anything that we have in game now will stay as it is. Right? It shouldn't be, well, I don't know if it's going to change, and I don't know if it's going to do this, and I don't know if it's going to do that. It's like, no, that's the wrong way of looking at it. It's madness to think things will stay the same, because even things that are going to be in mining salvage or the gameplay loops are going to change regularly and all be aligned and brought up and made, tweaked to be made more interesting and more balanced in terms of the economy, everything is always going to be changed. That's going to be, at least until we get to 1.0. So that is going to be a constant. And, I think we just need to be braced for it. Wooter says, I still need to buy myself a new PS5 controller. That's okay. It's going to be my birthday next Wednesday. Well, I won't see you before your birthday next Wednesday, Wooter. So happy birthday for Wednesday. Weird. I have a whole D and I still get a whole C loaner in PTU. Interesting. Yeah, the loaner matrix seems to be mucked up. I don't know whether they've used an old data thing, but that's it. What's really interesting is I'll see if I can find the line, because it's probably worth going on and having a read right now, because this is probably, pertinent to the conversation that we're having. So let me flip over in just a moment. Flip over, not flip you over. That would be weird. So I'm hoping still works, question mark. Good. Okay, just reading off the top then. Is the true end goal one single shard for all players? This is our ambition. However, giving a definite answer is not possible at this point. We will start with many small shards per region and slowly reduce the number of shards. The first major goal will be to reduce this to only needing one single shard per region. To get there, our plan is to gradually increase player count per shard and constantly improve the backend and client tech to support more and more players. Sorry, lost my place there. It is not just technology changes that are required to get this goal. New game design and game mechanics are needed too. Without mechanics to prevent every single player going to the same location, a large mega shard will be very hard to achieve, especially on the client. For example, there could be a mechanic to temporarily close jump points to crowded locations or create new layers for certain locations. So, yeah, kind of an interesting look at that one. While the backend is designed to scale horizontally, the client runs on a single machine and is limited to a definite number of CPU and GPU cores, as well as memory, which hopefully, given especially what they were saying about the 50 series, that technology might be able to explode. And once, the majority of people have changed over, when the 50 and 60 cards are here, maybe this will be yet another bottleneck that opens up and ceases to be a problem. Once we overcome these hurdles and accomplish one mega shard per region, we're up here, by the way, just where I'm highlighting at the minute, we'll be able to take on the final boss, merging regional shards into a global mega shard. This comes with its own set of issues, as locality plays a big role in the player experience. For example, latency between services within the same data center is much lower than latency between services that are hosted in two regionally separated data centers. And while we designed the backend to support one global shard, it is an operational challenge to deploy the backend in a way that doesn't favor one group of players over another. So that's quite an interesting, and this is, if you're wondering what the title of this is, you can go and have a look at yourself. It's the server meshing and persistent streaming QA, which talks about, I don't know, it doesn't have a date on it, frustratingly, but it talks about CitizenCon 2951. So it's fairly old, but it's really useful sometimes, I think, to look at this and kind of go back to when this was. What's really interesting is we'll then follow up the first version of a static server mesh, barring any unforeseen technical complications between Q3 and Q4 of next year. I don't know whether this was. I really don't know when this was. I'll have to have a look. But it'll be interesting. This is Benoit Beausejour is in this, so is mentioned in this, so at least I can timestamp it from there. But yeah, some really interesting information. Just catching up with the comments then. The big problem with the changes, says Can, is we don't know what will or won't change, because honestly I don't think CIG knows. So you're left with having to assume current direction is representative. Yeah, and that's it, right? And I think they know the effect they want. They don't know how they're going to achieve that effect. So, things are going to change, and that's just going to be the way it is. But when no one is giving you an update on what the plan is, you can only really judge them by the current actions. Yeah, and I mean they are updating as you know, notwithstanding the current content gap, which is frustrating to say the least, given the fact that they're making a lot of money from their subscriptions, and they said that would go into the content and keeping us updated. There's no reason they couldn't make videos and then pre-plan them. Just because they're on leave, you can pre-plan content. And I know this sounds kind of rich coming from me and the fact that I don't, but this isn't my full-time job, and I'm not making millions of dollars a year off it. If it was, I'd make sure there's a video out every week. Full stop, the end. So there's that. Mina Haroon, welcome in. Good to see you. I love 4.0. The issue with CIG is they like to do things the hard and expensive way. Usually, broke studios need to find simple solutions that work well. CIG just does it their way, usually complicated. Yeah, you're not wrong. There's no holes I can pick in that. You know, I think part of this is we've talked before. Sorry, I say we've talked. There's been conversation within the gaming community as a whole, if it's even one thing, repeatedly about companies, especially publishers, holding developers to account, releasing games before it's ready. No Man's Sky, Cyberpunk, you know, many examples of this happening. And people bemoan that publishers feel like they can do that to developers, and people just need to give game the times that it's ready. Having said that, even within those confines, even if the publisher is playing quote unquote nice, what most current games do is they'll take an established model and they'll update one or two things. And you know, you'll get nicer graphics and you'll get a different setting and you know, new maps and weapons and all that sort of stuff. But what will generally happen is, you know, if you look at the progression between, you know, Call of Duty, the first one, and Call of Duty, whichever one we've just had, or Modern Warfare, or whatever the fuck it's called now, you know, you can see the step-by-step logical progression. And part of that is because, that's a successful business model. So you wouldn't want to change it too much in case you take out the secret sauce without knowing that you've done it, and then the thing falls over. But B, it's the money, the time, and everything else. You only get to make changes in certain areas. You know, and this is the big thing, is there aren't that many games out there that have turned everything on its head. I mean, Minecraft is a really good example because it was an indie thing, right? There was one guy or a couple of guys putting something together, and that was like, we've never seen anything like Minecraft up until, there's plenty of bloody things now, but that was unique, and that's why it was so kind of popular, and I guess still is. But that's an example of someone going, I'm going to develop this my way, and screw the money and screw building it off established models. This is what I want to do. So that's an example of what I'm getting at. So yeah. CIG don't have any of those bounds, so they can do whatever they want. And you know, I go back to what Chris Roberts, I'm just going to jump across because it's probably worth going and have a look at the intro of what he said all the way back in the day, which is, I'm making the game I want to make. You know, Star Citizen Kickstarter. I'm going to see if I can find it. Chris Roberts pitch video. Here we go. I'm just going to pause that. And then hopefully, my ad block at the minute is doing something weird in that there's a loading time and all sorts of nonsense. But let's have a look. So there's that, and I guess I better put desktop audio on for this as well. Let's take a quick look. Oh, I need to change you over, don't I? Lol. We've come some way, right? volume down a bit. Because washing stuff up by hand sucks. They've come an awful long way. Gee, I wonder who could be flying this.
Hi, I'm Chris Roberts. Ever since I saw Star Wars as a wide-eyed 8-year-old, I dreamt of being a hotshot pilot saving the galaxy or a lovable rogue making my way across the cosmos. It inspired me to make Wing Commander and has influenced everything I've done since then. 10 years ago, after 20 years of making games, I was burned out, so I took a break, but I never stopped playing games nor loving them. And now, I'm ready to come back, and I'd like to show you something I've been working on. But I don't want to build any old game. I want to build a universe. I want to build a game I always wanted to build, but I didn't have the tools to do until now. One that you can fly off a carrier fighting a heroic war on the front lines, but also one that you can muster out and find your own fortune in the stars wherever your spaceship takes you. I want to be able to share this experience with my friends and fight against real opponents in space, not just AI. And I want this to be as good or better than any other game out there, and I want to actively push the boundaries of what you can do in a game. None of this would have been even possible 2 years ago. But with Moore's Law driving PC performance and cost and the gaming community embracing talented developers via crowdfunding, I believe it is possible today. I've never been accused of having a small vision, and so I thought it was best if I share my ambition with you visually. I'm pretty excited by how it's joined out, so why don't you come join me for a sneak peek?
So, and if you want to keep watching that, we can have a look at that again in a little while. But I think this is one of the things that I've mentioned a couple of times when I've talked about this, is that the more we see them build this stuff, the more I think what he said at the end there is exactly right. I don't think they're building just a game. They're building a universe simulator. When you look at how realistic that everything's going to be, the fact that Planet Tech V5 is, looking at things like soil density and quality and depth and sunlight and all that sort of stuff to automatically place plants and having hierarchies of which plants and that are dominant. Like, it's crazy. But you're correct. That is a very complicated way of going around it. It's a very expensive company way of going about it. So yeah. Mina says the bigger issue right now is how much work they've been doing to FPS parts of the game. Where's the ship content? Ground vehicles are almost useless. Most of my ships feel like WoW mounts. Interesting. Yeah, I can see how I can see how people would think that. It is absolutely. I think once the resource network stuff hits, Mina, I think it's going to feel a lot different. And then hopefully when, armor gets implemented, whenever that's going to happen, I think ships are going to feel better. What I also like is the letter from the chairman, which I haven't had a look at yet, so maybe we can have a look at that in this as well. Although it's a lot of reading by me, right? I think that would be the idea that they're decoupling content from the gameplay loop, so they're going to create content anyway outside of the gameplay loops. I think that's a really positive step in the right direction. So hopefully we'll see a little bit more around the ships and that sort of stuff. A little bit more on exploration and going places and finding things in your ship. I think that will go a long way to doing that. The ship cockpits look less arcade-like, says Socially Confused. Those drop-down screens scream X-Wing cockpit. Yeah, it's interesting, because we haven't seen those in ages. We haven't seen any of the drop-down stuff. So that's been a bit weird. Betty has shares in Mr. Sheen. He loves polishing, says Jadomo. Yeah, absolutely. This is reference, I'm guessing, Jademo, to the fact that, um, we're talking 3 years of polish on Squadron 42 because it was shown in 2023, right? So last year we were hoping for a release date, didn't get one, get told 2026. So it's going to be 2.5 at least years of polish on Squadron 42, assuming that it doesn't slip yet again, or just get pushed back into the ether. Because I don't believe for a second, go back to 2016, even 2018, that they thought, yeah, we'll release it in 2026. I don't think that was in their plan at all. So, there's a couple of things to bear in mind with that. I think, people talk a lot about Grand Theft Auto 6 and how games don't like to clash around the release of other big games and all that sort of stuff. I'm not entirely sure that's here. I mean, as we've seen here, this is making very much about PC, and because Grand Theft Auto 6 comes out on PlayStation, I don't think Chris is going to be put off by that. I think more likely, or it may be an element of it, but I think more likely what we're seeing here is actually what's the way to describe it? I think the hmm, fuck it, I'll just go ahead. I think the biggest challenge they have is the difference between what Squadron 42 looks like, if that's realistic, if that's representative of what it actually does, and Star Citizen. So players who go into Squadron 42 are going to get this polished experience, incredible stories, big name stars that put most films to shame, and they'll play it and it'll be amazing. And they'll be, yeah, now I can do this online. And they'll come into the dumpster fire that is currently the PU. And they'll be like, what is this? And they'll drop it and then potentially not come back. So I think a lot of, or, at least part of this, maybe there is enough to keep them polishing for that long, but I think there is at least a significant part of this that is about making sure that, they bring the PU up to some sort of standard that doesn't immediately turn off all the new players who are going to try Squadron 42, take one look at Star Citizen and go, no. So yeah. Um, Hot Dog Ring, I think. Am I saying that right? Sorry if I'm not, but good evening. Good to see you. Dave BH, good to see you. Welcome in, my friend. Can't believe they're actually showing Squadron 42 content. It's been so long. Yeah, the trailer way back when, October last year, was just incredible. And I know you know the trailer we're talking about because we watched it together. Shrapnel Face, good to see you. 3 years and still polishing? I can polish in about 3 minutes during my morning routine. That's possibly not talking about the same thing there, Shrapnel. Also, please don't tell us what you're polishing. I think that the less said about that, the better. But yes. Mina says, I was thinking of replacing turrets with AA ground vehicles. Then let us bomb them with our Spirit and Hercules A1. Create a Star Wars tunnel run with bombing at the end. There's a lot of bombing being talked about here, Mina. I can see you're someone who likes to see the explosions in their in their eyes, the reflection of the explosions and that sort of stuff. But yeah, I think one of the things that I took from the terrain stuff, um, from the CitizenCon chat, when they had the different biomes and stuff, is some of that looks a lot more kind of compact and all that sort of stuff. So having limited landing spaces and then a lot more of the exploration being done on foot makes sense. Like big canopies with trees and not being able to land between them. You just get clearings and then miles and miles of trees, or rocky canyons. Like there are many, many ways they can do it. Even things like atmospheric effects, right? Exceptionally high winds, lightning striking anything that's in the sky. There's a whole bunch of ways that they can make vehicles more useful. I guess it's just not the priority right now. Although having said that, looking at the bunkers and stuff, if you want to go into some of the bunkers that are hostile, or a hostile distribution center, taking a vehicle, a ground vehicle, especially something like the NASA, the medical NASA, because the turrets don't target it. So you can go in, you've still got a mobile spawn point, and you can come out and the turrets do nothing to you. So that works quite well, as opposed to either landing where you've got a hell of a walk because you've got to land outside of the range of size 5 turrets. You know, I think they're slowly beginning to build that usefulness. Hot Dog Green says, been playing for 3 weeks now. Oh, welcome, bud. First week stuck in New Babbage. Oh, no. Hanger had a second glass roof on top. Yeah, we've been there. Couldn't leave, got picked up and moved to Port Tressler. Second week did some bounty hunter state. This week landed in prison. Oh, no. Managed to get out after 3 days. Mate. Kept my crime stat, got rid of it today. Now no missions. Taking a break now. Yeah, 100%. And look, what we're hoping, I think, what CIG are planning is the hotfix will become the PU at some point this coming week. So starting tomorrow is Monday. If they get that out by Friday, 9 p.m. UK time, there's a couple of us that are going to go into Pyro and try one of the asteroid bases, go into one of the contested zones and have a play. And it's not necessarily something that we stream, but we get a community, we get a group of us together. There's a whole bunch, Jodomo, Can, Edison, we all play together. Lots of people in, that I haven't mentioned right now, but come in. Blamsmith, good evening, good to see you. Didn't see you sneak in. If you want in on that, just in the description, link to the Discord. Agree to the rules. You'll become a community member straight away. And all it is, just being Friday Night Ops. You don't have to do anything else. There isn't DGP. It's DGWP because someone stole DGP. So DWGP. You can join the org if you want to. Just make sure you include the username from Discord because that's where we do all our communication. But if you want in on that, you'd be more than welcome. And, we can also help with workarounds and stuff like that. So yeah. Wooter says, do you think we'll have the MISC fortune with 4.0.1? I don't know. There's been a lot of the stuff that's shared. One of the images, one of the sneak peeks, I guess we'd call it, from Star Citizen, from CIG was the I'm just going to see if I can find the image now. Bear with me a second. But one of the things that was shared looked very much like a hull kind of passageway, like almost a carbon copy of the hull. I'm just frantically scrolling through that. There it is now. So in fact, I'll do a better one. Open image in new tab. There we go. That's better. So let's jump across. If I can find the damn button. So this looks very much like a whole passageway with the window and everything else. The ground floor, that looks like we're in the main passageway looking out onto the passageway from the entrance or vice versa. That's not saying that that's what I think it is. It's just what struck me. Obviously, I haven't seen the new ship, so I don't know what this is. But it struck me very much as that sort of stuff. And yeah, as Soshi says, they've reused some of the assets. Yes, they have, and it's the same design language, right? You want to be able to look at a passageway and go, oh, that's MISC, that's whatever else, as everyone has done. Everyone identified MISC from this. And I don't think it's written anywhere. This is just MISC design language. And that's a good thing. Jabba, welcome in. Barely played in 3 years, since 318. Yep, we were talking about 318 earlier. Completely get why that stopped everyone playing. Hoping and praying that 4.x delivers. Yeah, I mean, it's probably going to be middle of the year before they get the server meshing running consistently. And I won't say stable because I'm not sure that's true, but you get my point, right? It's that. Badges, do you have the second image that shows external? No, if you want to fire that to me, mate, or I can go and have a look for it right now. But I'm just kind of, I'm frantically clicking between stuff at the minute, and I'm trying to pay attention at the same time. So if you want to fling me that on Discord, mate, you can do. Or I shall go and have a look. So yeah, bear with me for just a moment. Oh, is that the Yeah, I see what you mean. I think it's this one you're talking about. Oh, hang on, bloody hell. That's there we go. Is it this one you're talking about, buddy? Is that one stack? Is that what you're talking about? Because this here and that there is that, like, this is the view from the outside, so you were stood in there with that window looking at this bit, because you can see the pattern here. I'm just gonna 2 seconds. Oh god, I keep doing that on the wrong damn screen. So if you look here, that pattern there, the tile, small link, tile, small link, tile, small link, tile, small link. It's the same view but from external. So yeah, absolutely. A lot of people expect the fortune to come with a Stella Fortuna, St. Patrick's Day, but the Chinese New Year is also associated with good fortune. But yeah, I must admit, I thought that the Misc Fortune, when it first came out, the name was so ridiculous. I thought they were just trolling again, like they did with the Drake trash cart, whatever that was called. Is it the Raptor? Like, I just thought they were trolling. Like, the name Misfortune, just was like, nah, it's not a ship. I mean, if it is, fine. Maybe I'll do some sort of forfeit on stream. Maybe I'll down a shot of something or whatever else. If I'm wrong, but it just, to me, is, when you just go, of all the fucking things to call it, that's what you went for. That's just a little bit mad. But yeah, we'll see. 12 box external buffer. Yeah, potentially. Could be all sorts of stuff, right? Um, I find a lot of this stuff up here quite interesting. Like, you've got this long, almost like a pneumatic rod, although it's not, because it's not actually, it doesn't look to be attached to anything there. Maybe it's the folding apparatus, but then again, where's the rest of it? This looks like it opens potentially, so it's feeding something out onto it, maybe. And then, I don't know, go figure. Like, there's a lot in there, I sort of sure. Yeah, we'll see. Let's have a look. There's also from the IO show a picture of the Misc Fortune that showed the ship in its entirety. Interesting. I don't think I've seen that, Wooter. So if someone wants to fire that to me on Discord, then great, but they don't have to. If you look to the right, you will see a stay clear warning for the hoppers. Yeah, this bit down here. So, unfortunately, I'm in the wrong place, and I can't really. I'd have to move everything, right? So let's grab all. No, stop it. There we go. So if I just move myself over, float to the other side here. Just here, there's the stay clear, and that you're right. That does look like kind of a hopper or something similar. So yes, I'm gonna move myself back across now. But yeah, 100%. Man, the name is great, says Wooter. Stop it! Don't encourage them, for God's sake. Jabba, I'm seeing a lot of message retracted, buddy. I don't know. Hopefully that's not me doing it. That's not an auto mod or something, because I'm not doing anything. So if the messages aren't sending, honestly, I'm not doing anything. I don't have any mods, so there's no one else to do it. But I promise I'm not mucking you around, bud. Mornstar, hello, welcome in and lurking. Please do, my friend, make yourself at home. And if you're able to, grab yourself a drink and chill out. Wooter says, could also be the 12 box each side, since the door for opening the box pooper is large. Well, that's a disgusting thought. Thanks for that, Wooter. I'm not going to be able to unsee that now. Jesus. You're a bad man. Right. Okie dokie. Let's chop across again. Blamsmith, I reckon this new ship will lack structural salvage capabilities. Why does the cargo grid have a hinge? Pass. Maybe that's how it feeds out onto this thing. I don't know. They do like their kind of very clever ways of things happening, like the Intrepid with its ramps that come down the internal and then lift up, and you can access them from internal or external. Like, yeah, they like their nifty little ways of things happening. And I'm sure that if this is, the Misc Fortune as opposed to something else, then that's what they've done here as well. They like that sort of stuff, and I'm certainly not against it. So yeah. Perfect for a salvage ship, says Busy. I'll take advantage of somebody's fortune with my misfortune. Somebody's misfortune with my misfortune. I see what you did there, Busy. I was slow on the uptake with that one and then got tongue-tied. But nice. Yeah, 100%. 4.x alpha is still alpha, says Jabba. Pyro access in alpha is still a win. When will we get beta? Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. So one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to have a look at some of the big features that need to happen before we get to 1.0. Now, if you look at the definitions of alpha and beta for games development, you will find as many different definitions as there are companies pushing them, right? It's not always, but generally speaking, the definition of this, whilst a game is in alpha, so in alpha development, right, you lack core technology that's part of that game, just like we do. We don't have dynamic server meshing, we don't have the economy simulation, we don't have armor, we don't have a lot of the gameplay loops, and that sort of stuff. When that's complete, the game is considered to be at alpha. So it's like, right, we are alpha done. Beta is then adding content, because think about the PI wanted mission in Stanton. It's an investigation mission, specifically in Crusader. You go to the Kovalex shipping hub, Gundo, which has suffered a catastrophic systems failure. You go around, you listen to different audio recordings. There's a party going on, and you basically investigate for the wife of the guy that the insurance company has pinned it on. You investigate what's going on, and the more you investigate, the more of the story is revealed to you. But you can, at any point you want, when you've got the answer you want, if you don't want to get to the truth, you can submit it. And it changes how much money you're paid. It changes how she reacts to you when you get the news and all that sort of stuff. There is only one mission of that type in the game at the moment. And that's not to say it will be the only mission. That's a really good example of alpha versus beta development. They've put it in once. It works. It seems to work every time. I've never had that mission failed on me, and I've done it a fair few times. It works every single time. We've proved that it works. We don't need to add any more. Because we know the systems work, because the mission works. So that's it. In beta, they then go, okay, we've got this mission type investigation. We can now add loads of different types and backgrounds because the technology works. We've just got to do that. And that's kind of the difference between alpha and beta. So to answer your question, beta when, we need a lot more gameplay loops. We need armor. We need, I would suggest ship-to-ship docking. We'll need the economy simulation in, that will be when beta starts to, when we can say that we're happily in beta. Now, other company or other developers will say, no, that's not it. Like I said, there are lots of definitions, but I think generally speaking for games, that makes sense. Then you add early access, but early access seems to be a marketing tool, whereas alpha and beta are a development tool. So early access was a way of saying we're flogging you an incomplete, unready game. And then we will put loads of money in it. Ta-da! So yeah. Will SC ever be feature complete, says Jabba? No. I think we're going to get to the point where we're implementing version 20 of stuff. So, like we've got Planet Tech version 5 coming. I think we're just going to get more and more versions. They're just going to go add, and the next time they want to add something, right, we want to add lava to one patch, so that's going to be a new Planet Tech version. Or, we want to create an ocean planet and have subsurface stuff. So, and they've said this, right? Once the game's released at 1.0, that doesn't stop. They're just going to keep adding stuff. And at the moment, they've said that we'll still get major patches, multiple per year, that will add and refine and all that. They're just going to keep going. And obviously now, they've committed to that in another way, because we now know we're only getting 5 systems at launch. They're going to continue adding systems for the lifetime of the game. And the only point at which that stops is when Star Citizen's dead and they're switching the servers off. So yeah, no, we're not going to be feature complete at any point. Didn't they already say that 1.0 Live is going to be the official beta commercial release? Yeah, so 1.0 is what they've said there is when they consider it at release. But that's not kind of what they meant is, because there's lots of stuff that they've said will be after 1.0. So the Endeavour is the good example of this. The Endeavour is not coming before 1.0 because it's a very complicated ship. You've got bits that detach, you've got all the modules that you can put on that drastically change the look of the ship. You think of the Redeemer and the Carrack, all of those modules externally will probably look very similar, if not identical. They certainly won't drastically change the shape and the silhouette of the ship. The Endeavour will. So the Endeavour is a very complicated bit of kit. We're not getting it before 1.0. I think what they've said with 1.0 is 1.0 is going to be a phase shift. So once they say we're at 1.0, and this is what they've said, this next bit, is things will be release polished. So it won't be like it is at the moment where they put it in and go, yeah, it's broken, but, we're working on it. There'll be a higher standard for releasing stuff. It will be more like point patches or, subsequent post expansion release for Warcraft or whatever game you want to use. It's those update things that they do that they're releasing it to what they consider to be a released game. So the releases will be of a much higher quality. That's 1.0. Depends if they stop adding more features, says Calico, which within live service game is never. Yep, like we said, they're just going to keep adding for the lifetime of the game. Let's have a look. Yeah, Galen, no worries, mate. Good to see you. Matt P, a beta is before 1.0. You would hope so, right? And it would make sense given the model that I talked about, in that that's when they're going to add lots more content for each of the gameplay loops that we're going to get and all that sort of stuff. So there's going to be lots of that to go. It might not be a huge amount beforehand because, like they said, they're still adding things. They're still going to be iterating on stuff and all that. That's still going to happen. So, it won't be like that will be it done. But yeah, we'll see. When that's going to be, I don't know. People don't seem to, there seems to be a bit of a quiet in any Discord where I say this, which is fun. And I don't know whether it's because it's kind of like the realization or people just think I'm nuts or whatever. But like I've said to people before, I don't think we're going to get 1.0 before 2030. I know it's going to upset a lot of people, but I don't. And I can justify that. I can say why I think it is that, if you look at gameplay loops like mining and salvage and all that sort of stuff, look at how many we get per year. What's the maximum number? Maybe 2 gameplay loops like that per year, if that. Now look at how many gameplay loops were on that big presentation when they put up the guilds presentation in CitizenCon, and they had the different guilds and then all the professions that falls under. Some of that stuff that's never been talked about before, especially around like the Mercenary Guild and the Outlaws Guild, and I can't remember what specifically they were called, but that, right? There's so much stuff in there that we've never seen. They've got to add gameplays for all of those things to make it feel different, and that's got to that's got to happen at some point. So I think it's going to be a long old time. So yeah, I may have to leave my fleet to probate, says Jodomo. It's worrying. Yep, 100%. I'm right there with you, bud. Stack says 5 years it is. No, that wasn't. Hang on. Hey, why are we suddenly holding me to account on this? This is not what I meant. That's not. No, it's. It could be 2030, yes, says Matt P, but with foundational tech mostly settled, the ground won't be crumbling underfoot for features. 3 years is possible. Yeah, I think. Yeah, Stack, you're stitching me up here, mate. Matt, really interesting point, and I think kind of maybe this is what we were hoping a little bit that we were going to get this year when they made the announcement at the end of 2023 at CitizenCon. Squadron 42 is now feature complete. Well, I think what we were hoping for was that they were then going to, with the people coming back across, that stuff was going to happen much quicker. And the whole point of building systems as underlying the game rather than building just individual missions is that having that mission system that you can build off of is that you can start to put that in. And that's the same with everything, right? That's the way they're building out planet tech, to build out more planets. The locations that are going to take the times are the ones that they can't rely on handing over to the system, which are things like the landing zones, right? They can't hand the landing zones over, even though, even things like the interiors of the stations, they've handed some of that to the AI and they get it to generate lots of versions, but they still have to manually check those versions to see if they work and whether it flows, whether it feels like a coherent experience. So there's still a lot of stuff. But I'm with you. What I'd like to see now is the proof of the pudding, if you like, where all these systems that they told us is going to make it quicker actually start to make things quicker, and we start seeing rates of stuff being added where we go, holy cow, that was a lot of stuff. Like last year, we ended up getting a monster patch at the beginning of the year, which then dragged itself out until right at the end, and we got kind of a 4.0, but not really because it's a preview and you're keeping 324. It started off huge and then all of a sudden there was nothing for the rest of the year. And I accept that a lot of that is around technical issues, persistent hangars and the freight elevators and all that sort of stuff. Don't have an issue with that. And then, of course, also with implementing server meshing. So it's not quite because the systems that they're creating didn't work in terms of all these modular systems. This was implemented new tech. So hopefully we will see things speed up. But again, like I don't like videos like we've seen some people put out about this could be a great year, because all that happens is 3 or 4 people say that and the could disappears out of what they said, and all of a sudden this will be a great year for Star Citizen, and then it's not. And then the conversation, because it takes place over the course of a year, what started off as 3 or 4 popular content creators going, this could be an amazing year for Star Citizen, turned into, at the end of the year, well, CIG said this was going to be an amazing year, and we've not had that much. And it's like, well, no, first of all, they didn't say that. Secondly, this could be isn't the same as saying this will be. But yeah, I don't like that conversation. I think for me now, especially being, what are we, 12 years in, going into our 13th year? I'm done with the this could be. Prove it. Let's just get there. Do you know what I mean? It's, if we have a year, what I'd much rather do is get to the end of the year and go, holy shit, 2025, look at where we've come. Here's a list of everything they fucking added. Let's compare this to every other year and look at the amount of features. That's what I want to have happen. That would be kind of cool. But yeah. If you're going to do Wang questions, nix this year. Jodomo, go away. And don't let the door hit you on the way in the ass on the way out. Go on, back off. Can says, this is CIG. If anything, I'll just get more distracted by some shiny new content. Possibly. Squad is probably feature complete, but nowhere near being polished. Which didn't they say during the last sitcom? Squadron, you mean? No, yeah. So Squadron was announced feature complete in 2023. The sitcom. So that's been a year and a couple of months. So yeah. Mornstar. Squirrel! Yeah, exactly that. Can my kids inherit my ships? So interestingly, I saw something a while ago that Steam says no. And I know this isn't a Steam game, but Steam has said that accounts can't be inherited. Which is interesting. So top tip, leave your passwords to your kids, will you? For the love of God. Because otherwise they're not going to be able to apply to Steam and get it handed over. Steam will say no. And that'd be rubbish. I'm pretty sure it was Steam. Might have been Blizzard. But I'm pretty sure it's Steam. Rumors of GTA 6 in 2026 will not be good for Squadron 42 of 2. Two different game platforms. I don't think it's that comparable, right? If it was on PC, I get that, but you know, sure. But we've already seen the general pace accelerate, says Matt P. Despite some dry spells, I'm burdened with patience. However, yeah, and you know, I think I'm like the majority of. I think the majority of Star Citizen community are generally patient, or if they're not, they're at least able to temper themselves with, I'd rather get something that's good than something that's quick. I think there is a very vocal minority who drown out everyone else because they're just jumping up and down and screaming and defecating on everything, who are massively impatient and want everything yesterday. So yeah. The game of telephone, it's fun, says Socially Confused. I have no idea what you're talking about, but I'm glad that it's fun. So yeah. You think it'll be Castra, says Jadome. Time someone out in YouTube chat. Good thing I've seen from Star Citizen starting to pick up pace is the elite developers have just been kicked up the backside, so they're doing things fast. Great. CIG delivers equals win, says Jabba. Yeah, 100%. Why not? Steam doesn't need to know, so Socially Confused. Yeah, 100%, unless you're trying to get into their account. If you contact them and go, I want access to the account because my relative passed away and they've bequeathed it to me, Steam will be like, nope. So make sure you leave your passwords. GTA 6 will be on PC because it can. Yes, absolutely. 12 to 24 months. I think it was 24 months the last time after PlayStation release. So basically, it's going to straddle it. You're going to have brain freeze. My brain just 4 forward. You're going to have the game released in 2025 on PlayStation or 2026 if the delay rumors are true. And then 12 to 18 months, 12 to 24 months later, it'll all arrive on PC. So it's going to straddle Squadron 42 quite nicely. I blame Mike, says, and now, don't go hammering Mike. Yeah, I've seen a couple of videos on Mike recently, and from Mike, and maybe he's not as negative as I've originally pegged him as. Maybe there's a bit more there, and I'm just being unfair. So I had it in first. Do we know for sure that there was a deal done for GTA 6 as PC has been their big money spinner? So all we know is, it's like it was before. It's coming out 12 to 24 months afterwards. Cannot release Squadron 42 anywhere around GTA, says Shadyface. Retina says, we did shoot all Bane badges. I don't know for what, but do it. Well, first of all, welcome Shadyface and Retina. And secondly, Retina, with that attitude, you can just walk your ass back out the door. But yeah, thanks, I think. Yeah, so... no, I mean, it was the same with GTA 5. GTA 5 was console fast. And us later, much later. So, whatever. They cannot release Squadron 42 anywhere on GTA. I'm not sure that's true. I think, console versus PC. I don't think that's, for the people that have the multiple platforms, good for them. But for, I don't. I've only ever got PC. So when GTA 6 comes out, I'll be looking for something else to play. Hopefully it's this, because it's in a great state and we've got loads of other stuff to be doing. Fingers crossed, right? So yeah. I thought everyone always blames Elliot's a Socially Confused. I don't know who Elliot is, but if it's not blaming me, I'm for it. Squadron 42 and GTA are totally different kind of games. 100%. Yeah. So that's where we are. Now I'm frantically wondering, what else did I say I was going to talk about again? I don't remember. It's all about news cycle, Sister Carrigan. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I suppose that's it. It's all about Elliot Mappy as an SC dev, in charge of missions. Yeah, and do you know what? That's probably a good time to have another whinge already. Already having had one, another whinge about the fact there's still no content from CIG this year. Doesn't matter that they're on leave. You can schedule videos, so you can save them beforehand. But yeah, GTA games is one of those. GTA is one of those games, says Shittyface, that people will buy a console in order to play. GTA will take all of the attention for at least 2 months. Yeah, 100%. And I know this is probably going to come across as a little bit more aggressive than I mean it to be, but you know there are 12 months in a year, right? So that's 1/6 of that year. You know, I think console games would be mad. You know, big name console games would be mad to release in that window. But PC games, I just don't see it. I don't see the competition. Yeah, Elliot, Sister Gargold, where are the investigation missions? Because that's a really good mission. Honestly, if you haven't done it, go do it and thank me later. It's a really good mission. There's no combat to it, but it is a really good mission. Really good mission. We need to get data running and science missions in. Just something different, please, says Monster. It's really interesting. We were having a conversation in the Discord. Link in the description below. See how I segued into that plug? That was smooth, right? But yeah, we were talking about this, and there are a couple of people in there, and I can see where they're coming from, who are more interested in the industry, the exploration, and the non-combat elements of Star Citizen. And I think, you know, if they can make those elements just as capable of eating your time as combat is, I think this will be an incredible game by the time that we get there, right? So yeah. The prison ship mission was great too, says Blamsmith. Yeah, 100%. And there's a lot of. Sorry, I'm just going to mark on my screen. Where did that come from? Yeah. The you know that whole prison loop. There's lots of that to be added as well. You're right. The prison mission was great. The prison ship where you go and break out as a bad guy. You break out some of the people that are being transported. And that hopefully starts to show us like the criminal side of the gameplay. You know, I hope criminal is more than just attacking players and killing stuff. I hope that criminal is just as fleshed out as a legal loop. You know, because one of the things that I would be quite interested in doing is the whole Firefly, you know, not openly against the good guys, or sorry, not openly against people, not murder hobos, you know, don't go killing people unless they absolutely have to and it's in self-defense, but they're still like two fingers up at the establishment, you know, trading stuff for contraband, trying to help the little guy, as opposed to, and I mean obviously he's helping themselves as well, you know, versus the big people. And if they can flesh criminal gameplay out to that extent, where you can have that feeling of being, you know, the Serenity and all that sort of stuff, then you know they'll have won the internet in my estimation. Retina Bonus says exploration here for certain. I don't mind the combat, but only if it serves a purpose. So she confused says, imagine if they took the investigation mission and allowed us to heal the NPC. Just let the NPC stand up until we leave. Then it can re-die. There's no NPC in the investigation one. It's all done through datapads. You pick up voice recordings and you go and find information and you go and see bits of evidence and stuff like that. It's a very, very clever mission. Star Citizen. Wow, we're graced with your presence, sir. Good evening. For me, 2024 was a very successful year because server meshing and Pyro were released. So if people are not satisfied with Star Citizen 2024, I have no idea what they're talking about. Yeah, I think the like I can see both sides, right? Is that server meshing in and of itself was a massive technical achievement. And it's the groundwork. And I remember saying, and I said this at the end of last year, and apologies for repeating myself, without server meshing, the game doesn't work. Star Citizen died on its ass. And the fact that when they committed to this, they didn't know if they could get it to work. You will remember, I'm sure, those of us that have been here around Star Citizen for quite a while, remember iCache? Remember that? Didn't work. Fell over. They thought it was going to work and it didn't work, and that was when they switched over to this idea of the replication layer. But their first idea didn't work, and I can only imagine the sinking feeling Chris and the devs must have been had going, we thought this was going to work, and it doesn't. Shit. Back to the drawing board. And, you know, that could have been such a major setback. They've got it. They've got that moment that they showed at CitizenCon 2023 of someone on one server shooting objects and players and vehicles on another server next to each other in real time, being observed by people on other servers. That we can't underestimate the importance of that. We got Pyro in, which is really, really important because it's the first of the next systems. And we can only hope now with Planet Tech V5, if we get this Genesis suite of systems, Starkitect, the Planet Tech V5 stuff, you know, how they place things and how they create these biomes, they can get that working, things will increase. And I really hope, because for me now, one of my big concerns is only 5 systems on launch. What that does to me is it says we're not going to get carriers for a time being, right? We'll have the Kraken and we'll have the, I almost said Liberator, but we'll have the stuff that carries other ships, whether it's a shipping ship or a carrier. But I don't think we're going to get much more in the way because now it doesn't so much need it. If you're only having 5 systems, if you're having 100 systems, that ability to move multiple systems without using bases is really, really important. But all the systems are going to be inhabited. So in every system, we're going to have places to refuel, even if they take the other stations out of Pyro and just fall back to Ruin Station, which was the original plan, until I think they realised how much of a shit show that was going to be with ships not being able to refuel. So yeah, I get what you're saying, Star, but I'll go back to something that Chavez said earlier, which was all these technological achievements, if what you experience is still a very poor game and you're not enjoying it and that sort of stuff, kind of doesn't matter, right? It's the perception thing. And both of those things can exist in the same space. They can be true at the same time. We got a brand new system. We got a technological milestone that some people thought we were never going to get, and they're in, and that's really good news. However, some people did enjoy it, and for them, that's bad news. And you can, I sometimes flip flop between the two. I'm stunned that we've got server meshing. I am blown away by what Pyro looks like, but also when I fall through the planet for the 3rd time in a play session, I'm really pissed off. So you know you can kind of have both, and that's fair, right? I'm still hoping every system gets a Kuiper belt of rare small bodies in the deep black. It would be a massive canvas for exploration, mining, and secret based gameplay. And that's the beautiful thing, right? There's so many places they can take this. They can have systems in the game where there is no lore, and it's where orgs go to knock the snot out of each other. And they're completely lawless, you know, in the same way that they're going to have these instant things for org battles. There's so many ways they can do it. It will be, you know, it's a blank canvas. They've given themselves a universe. If you can conceive of it, they can do it, sort of thing. So yeah. The look of release on Chris Roberts' face at that server meshing demo working was so telling. Yeah. Like they said, he cried. Because this was the bolt on which everything hung. This was the turning point. Was the most important thing to happen to Star Citizen. Was proving that can work. Del Kenobi says the Liberator will be my favorite load carrier. Del Kenobi can also walk himself out of the door. Disgusting behavior, sir. How very dare you? We will be sharing words when the stream is over. So yeah, Gib Liberator, you're all just awful. Liberator will be very helpful, 100% better. I've got a fleet builder episode coming up, and the Liberator features in one of my fleets quite heavily because it works really, really good for that. That's no moon, says Monster. Yeah, 100%. The Drake Leviathan. That's what we need. Retina Man says a Copa belts were a thing. I think it's Copa. I can't remember how it's pronounced, but I'd set up a stealth explorer ship, keep the signature down. Excuse me. To avoid pirates and other undesirables. I think that's one of the challenges that Star Citizen, that CIG really haven't said how they're going to address and how they're going to fix. Is especially as we've just read, their aspiration is one shard. What I think is going to happen is you're going to have one shard per region, but if they get it that far, but if they have one shard, it's how do you make people feel like they're exploring deep space and they're the first human being there if 300 other people are there when you turn up, right? I always say this, and I take this back to World of Warcraft, is when you play the expansion, it's like, oh my god, you've just washed up on this beach. This place is devoid, and you look around and there's hundreds of player characters running around, and you're like, it's not that abandoned, is it? You know, you go to you find this kind of like abandoned location, and it's just full of other people because it's a quest location. You're like, yeah, it's not really. So hopefully, Star Citizen, with as much space as it has, can still achieve that for us, because that's what we want, right? Is to feel like we are, you know, at least some of us, those of us that don't want to be murder hobos, want to feel like we're discovering stuff. The Ironclad will be my mini Liberator. The Assault due to the repair bases, Retina, in response. Sorry. Good lord. I'm a little bit tired. Sorry, it's been a weekend. We were up till rubbish o'clock this morning, chatting shit, drinking. I drank an entire bottle of port. In fact, yeah. Just fish that out of the bin a second. An entire bottle of port, emptied, completely. So yeah. Oops. Yeah. So I'm a bit knackered, so that's why I'm yawning at you. I'm not being rude. Well, I'm not trying to be rude. I probably am being rude. I'm not trying to be. Um, so yeah. Uh, so Wouter says, I just hope the Ironclad will be at Victus one way or another. It would be great. Supposedly already in full development. Shouldn't be too hard to be a huge bot with a pilot seat and a caterpillar. Yeah, possibly. Hence why it's drinkers with gaming problems, not gamers with drinking problems. 100%. Yep, yep. Um, Destroy. Good evening. Welcome in. No worries. It's doing funny things. I think because I haven't streamed yet this year, the algorithm's probably like, well, I'm going to punish you for your first couple of streams back. So I'm just going to wear it, mate. But I'm glad you could make it. Just before the end, I think we got about 30 minutes left to run. So it's good to see you. The good news is, Diz, just because you're fresh in, I'll let you know some of the good news. And for everyone else that wasn't here at the beginning, I am being finally gigabit internet is full fiber internet is available in my area. So at the end of the month, on the 31st, on the Friday, they are coming to install gigabit internet. So I'll have much better upload rates. I'll have much better download rates. Hopefully, I'll be able to not only stream games or stream Star Citizen being played rather than just me, my fat face, talking to you guys, but also that I'll be able to multi-stream. So I'm probably looking up to open up on Twitch as well. So really, really excited about that. What could possibly go wrong, right? So that'll be really cool. Yeah. Instance jump point missions can fix that, says Dodoma. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of ways of doing it. You know, I think they can. And the beautiful thing is that instances can bridge the gap between, you know, it could be a temporary solution until they figure out something more permanent as well. So there's loads and loads of ways they can do it, which is really cool. So yeah. The Perseus turret placement is problematic. So Mornstar's in here just trying to start fights. I think it works. It's going to do the C-130 gunship thing. If it's going to circle its opponent, and it's basically going to broadside them. And just hammer them sideways, which helps it because you don't want it coming head on at an opponent because it will, you've got no bearing movement. So if something's coming straight at you, you just aim at it. Whereas, of course, if it's moving side onto you, it's much harder to hit because you've got to anticipate its movement. And minor changes in movement can mean massive changes in where it ends up in the time it takes you around to get there. So yeah, I think the turrets on the Perseus are fine, but we'll find out when it gets released. Drake ships are super detailed, though. It may be a while. Then we got something about Drake ships not being that good, so, you know, whatever. I'm not getting involved in the Drake thing. So, yeah. Dang, dude, nice. Been using fiber internet for a while now and think back on dial-up speeds in my teens. Oh, God. Yeah, I mean, the distance is going to be massive. Basically, at the moment, downloading through Steam, I peak at 9 megabytes a second. That's how bad it is. I'm right on the edge of a new development. This is a very new area of housing. And one of the things they failed to do when they put everything in is we were still on the old copper lines. So it's been really bad. It's also been awful here for mobile signal. When I first moved in here back in 2016, you couldn't stream YouTube at dinner time because too many people were using it and you didn't have the bandwidth. That's how bad it was. So yeah, it's only taken 8 years to get to the point where you got gigabit now, and everyone else can just sing it. Yeah, so that's going to be cool. How is something as slow as the Perseus going to circle ships that are faster than it is? Because it's not going to be circling the fast things. It's going after capital ships and stuff like that. So, yeah, that's its whole thing. So yeah, it'll probably get point defense as well. Says Jodomo. Yeah, I'm no doubt. Someone said something about the Atlas. Matt said something about the Atlas. Or not. Oh. Avoid the Atlas for now, says Retina, as it breaks the ship's storage. It breaks the ability to store ships at stations and houses. Does it? So if the Atlas is on board? Because it worked with my Polaris. I had the Atlas and... Oh no, I think the Atlas disappeared. I had the Atlas and the Nurse are on board. But yeah, if people need to be... When is tea time? Dinner time, so actually confused, but for British people. Even my Wi-Fi download speed is crazy fast, but if I hardwire into the modem, I get the full gig. Yeah, I'm hardwired. So there's a cable that runs through a gap in the door that I've created here, and then down the stairs, and then across the roof of the room into the corner of where the router is. So yes, I am hardwired, which is good news because the Wi-Fi here, the router's getting old, doesn't like doing Wi-Fi. Perseus's top turret is too close to the bow, allowing deck cracking, and there is no synergy with the bottom turret, which creates problems with the interior. What do you mean no synergy with the bottom turret? In terms of what? Placement? Do you mean symmetry? I guess I'm not quite sure what you're driving at. Physical internet connection is best as right now, far more reliable. Yeah, 100%. So yeah. It's all going to be very exciting, I think, and that sort of stuff. Also, because I know Dell will have a go at me if I don't sort this out in the first month. I've had a couple of questions about things like Patreon and whatever else. I'm still choosing a platform, but once that's done, I will let people know. One of the big obstacles I've had to doing that is, first off, I don't need it. All right, so please, 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 when it goes up, it's not me begging. It's not, my channel isn't contingent on that happening. It's just because I've had people ask, and mainly to stop Dell from giving me shit. But you know what? The whole idea there is I'm going to have this set up. One of the obstacles I've had is I'm struggling to get weekly content out for the channel. If I add the need to add stuff to a Patreon or something similar, it's not going to go. And people keep telling me you don't need to. It's fine. It's just a platform where people can show some support. But I've got that British guilt thing about being given money because we're all weird. So, you know, what I'm thinking I might do is I might play other random games. And because I play lots of stuff anyway, outside of Star Citizen. And I might just every so often turn the camera on and record something. So if you're that interested enough to come and provide some support like that, first off, thanks massively. Secondly, that will be my kind of way of interacting a little bit more with the people that want to show that support. And yeah, but you can always see me do that sort of stuff anyway. Just get into Discord. I don't want to paywall access to me at all. So if you want to come in and have a chat, just jump in Discord. If I'm on the voice channels, come say hi. I'm never in the voice channels when I'm recording stuff, so by all means, come in and say hi. Yeah. Synergy allowing to track and target the same target. So I think both of them can, right? Certainly in the frontal arcs, in the first, like the front 180 degrees, because the rear turret, what it does is it's retracted. In all the photos that it's in at the minute, it's retracted. If you look at the kind of the dicky little animation they did and the Perseus brochure, you see both turrets firing forward. So when they sit in the turret, like most turrets, it then extends out slightly, and then it gives it view over the I say over the hull, under the hull. So that the lower turret is going to have similar arcs to the top. They will be able to engage the same target at a wide range of aspects, is certainly the way it looks at the moment. So yeah, Discord is the definition of nonsense, says Ratina. Absolutely. That's why I love it so much, because it's just pure chaos. Not sure I understand, says Ratina, why would Dell give you problems? Because he keeps asking, and then he bangs on about me doing it. So, for the interest of my peace of mind and peace and quiet, I'm going to just do it, and that's that. And if it sits there and nothing happens, that's great. But at least Dell's not giving me shit. So, woohoo. Just be warned, mad nonsense has often been talked in Discord, especially when I've had a bottle of port. I just chat shit. So yeah, leave me that. Haha, just do it. Yeah. At Mornstar, but do you have the Thundercow paint? The best paint of any ship ever. Changed my mind. Yeah, 100%. Thundercloud here too. Woo. Thanks, Edison, by the way. But yeah, just do it, says Dell. Oh God, rude. So yeah, I like I said, hopefully at some point this week. Well, I say hopefully at some point this week. Normally, Fridays at about 5:30 UK time. The video about Pyro will go up, and everything that's happened since 4.0 has come out. I was hoping. I'd spoken many times about this being one video with my reaction, obviously edited down, but my reaction to how it works. Star Citizen was not going to let me play it like that. So the footage that you're going to see was gathered over many weeks. And by what I mean by gathered over many weeks is there were days and days of trying to get stuff to work and it not. And then what you see is the result of a couple of sets of playtime. So like it gets weird because all of a sudden like I'm wearing different clothes and yeah, so during the video it looks like I've basically done like 3 wardrobe changes during a video, and I haven't. It's just yeah. So it'll be good fun. Oh, Dell the system. Yeah, no, Dell Kenobi. Yeah, that Dell. Sorry, Brattina. Yeah. That Edison's Underground Black Market Parts Depot sold the paints. Yeah, 100%. I thought you meant his body parts depot. That's obviously a different conversation. One change a week, says the Cara God. Once a month is enough for a sensible child, and if you know what that's from, then kudos to you, sir. But yes, yeah. So yeah, it's gonna be good fun. I think when that comes out, there will also be, like I say, the fleet builder video that I worked on over Christmas. So I looked at my fleet and put all the notes for that together, and just need to kind of. There's a lot of editing that goes with that, lots of images and stuff. So that'll be with us, sure. So yeah, there'll be that, and then like I said, I'm going to have a look at some of the stuff between now and what needs to happen between now and 1.0, and that looking at the notes for the videos will be a series of videos. There'll be a number of episodes of that because it's just too big to talk about in one video, and no one wants to watch videos for 30 minutes anymore because no one's got the bloody attendance, man. Other than you guys, obviously, for being in here for the whole stream, and I appreciate you. It's really nice to catch people. Sangroper, good evening, buddy. Good morning to you, I guess, in your time. Hope you're doing well, my friend. And I suppose the one thing I haven't said to people, although I said it in a video, but I haven't said it to you guys on live stream, is I hope you all had a great Christmas and New Year. and got to spend some time with the people you love, and got to eat too much, drink too much, be merry, and all that good stuff. I really hope that was a good time for you, and if it wasn't, then I'm sorry, but this too shall pass. So yeah. Um, doo, doo, doo. I'm getting myself a belated CPU and cooler upgrade, says Retina. Yeah, I've been looking. I must admit, I'm only on fucking. I'm only on a 3080. I must admit, I've been looking at the 50 series. I'm watching that with interest. I'm going to see how they actually perform when people get their hands on them and see if it holds up to the specs they've been throwing around. But yeah, I might well transition over to the 50 series. So yeah, 5090 time for badges. It's not going to be a 5090 can, not on a whole, not in a month of Sundays. But yes, and thank you for the plug, Del. I appreciate it. Yep. If you enjoyed today's stream, show your support by subscribing and liking. Ta. But yes, so what I'm probably going to do is I might. Nvidia. Its prices are always jacked. Yeah, it's a real shame that the price has changed after the shortage. Changed as the shortage happened and then never reset. They got more sensible, but they've never returned to their levels. I remember when top end graphics cards. You remember back in the day? Remember? When top end graphics cards was 600-700 quid, and now that's your entry level shit. So yeah, it's just a shame they were never going to bring that down though. Good old capitalism. Yeah, blam 100%. That's what I said off the That's what I said is and especially like the models they use for testing and stuff. I want to see what the off the line production ones look like, because it wouldn't be the first time there's been really good stuff suggested, and then what actually happens is the card's a pile of poop because there's production problems or whatever. So yeah, I've never been one of these people that pre-orders tech. I'll always leave it to see how it runs and how it performs, and that technique has only ever proved me right. And done me well. Retina Banner says, tend to go to AMD. I don't need the NVIDIA tax. They also tend to run Linux a lot, running an RX 7900 XTX. Nice. Yeah, I'm on AMD chip at the moment. I'm on a 5600X or 5800X. I don't remember. I'm on one of those things anyway. But yeah, so I'm sat on that. The one thing I still haven't done, and I know this is going to turn a couple of people are going to roll their eyes. I still haven't installed that M.2. That I'm going to achieve before they install my gigabit broadband. We'll see. So yeah, I remember when I bought the second fastest GPU available for £110. Yeah, absolutely. Do you remember the Creative Lab stuff? Having to buy sound cards as well. Does anyone remember that? When you had to buy separate sound cards? I remember. I'm still yet to spend the £250 on any one PC component as Blam. I mean, possibly. Yeah, I mean, so one of the things now where I absolutely try to get the best one that I can afford, is the motherboard. Because if you skimp on your motherboard, your entire system is built on a shaky foundation, and it means that when you go to upgrade, you rip the motherboard out, which can change an awful lot of stuff. So yeah. Badges, we need to talk. Haven't installed the NVMe yet. No, I haven't. Yeah, Sound Blaster Pro, socially, 100%. Sound Blaster Pro. And the Voodoo series of graphics cards. I'm showing my age now. Yeah, Monster. No, it's all good, mate. We can be old together. Sorry, says, I'm a Linux user too. NVIDIA 4080 works very well on some distros. Don't want to go to AM5 due to the overhead of having to rebuy the Mobo RAM and CPU. That. Yeah. And unfortunately, it's like, it's a necessary evil. You've got to do it at some stage. You've got to do it like a full rip out and rebuild. But you're right. The longer you can keep that going and still have a build that you're happy with, then the better. So yeah, absolutely, and I think you're getting some agreement from chat as well, which is good news. So Badges is a good chip, but if you upgrade, it'll be noticeable. I'm moving from a 5800X to a 5950. Yeah, so I my last build was during COVID, during the lockdown. I put a rig together then. Kaiser Solo, welcome in. You'll probably be better upgrading the CPU before GPU if you have to 5600X. Is it 56 or 58? I can't remember. I think basically whatever it was, I looked at one of them and I think it was 56 because the 5800 for the price increase didn't justify. Sorry, for the performance didn't justify the price increase. So I went for the one lower, and they were like it even outperforms the 58 in certain circumstances. So it was like, boom. The ROG X87E Extreme is inbound. I know enough about ROG numbering and naming to know that that'll be a nice board. I don't know which one you're talking about, but yes, that's that. Yeah. AM5 is now 2 gens in. Yeah, it is 100%. But you know, it's bearing in mind that when I started playing this, I was still on DDR. When I started playing Star Citizen, I was still on DDR3, and running a 670 amp. Yeah. Oh no, and then I upgraded to a 970, I think. So I was running it first on 970. I wasn't even on a 10 series when I started playing Star Citizen, which is why I couldn't do a lot. That's why a lot of, if you look at my early videos, it's all stock footage. Because if I tried to record anything in game, it was like watching a PowerPoint slideshow. It was just awful. Getting like 5 frames a second. It's like punching yourself in the what's it. So yeah. If you upgrade your graphics cards only, you might need to upgrade your power supply for the new pin set. Yeah, very possibly. Like, you know, I'm not going to do anything at the moment until I have a look at it. You know, but the NVMe going in is the top priority because it's sat over there. So that can just go in. The thing is at the moment I'm on old SATA drives, and what I need to do is rip everything out, put Windows in, do a fresh reinstall, and it's gonna be a lot of pain. But yeah. Oh no, Mina says same here. DDR3 GT8 X 670 SLI. I couldn't get out of bed. Yeah, I feel your pain. That's just rough. If you don't install it, I'll get Edison to come and install it for you. This is why I keep my front door locked. Yeah, 100%. So we'll go. Del, yeah, I'll be getting mine tomorrow, and I'm chomping at the bit. Says Retta. Oh, yours is arriving tomorrow, Retta. That's awesome. 6 cores, 12 threads. Yes, that sounds about right, Retta. I'll have to have a look. I don't remember. I kind of I do all the research at the time, and then stiff myself over because then I don't look at anything else. And don't keep up to date with it. So the next time I need to upgrade, I then got a whole bunch of reading to do in comparison and videos to watch, and yeah. So one of these days I'll learn, but it is not this day. So yeah. Retina Bunny, yes, very happy with it. 5950X runs a lot hotter than my previous CPU. So I do have an AIO, so hopefully that won't be too much of an issue. Now I got NVMe in RAID 0, i9, 64GB DDR5, and a 3090 Ti, says Mina. Nice. So a few more the frames than you had before, but just a smidge, right? So now you can get out of bed, but running around the hab's a problem. No, that sounds a really nice rig setup. I'm sure you're enjoying some buttery smooth. As much as SC can be buttery smooth, you're enjoying some buttery smooth frames, I'm sure. Yeah, so that's cool. Right, excuse me a second. That out the mini fridge. Oh dear. Got to keep up with my hydration. That one can go in the bin. Oh, good. There we go. So yeah, that's that. So, I think obviously it's been a slow news weekend for Star Citizen. The one last thing, I mean, I suppose we could go over the Carl Jones thing, but I also feel like the door on that is shut, right? And that's the end of that. So Carl Jones was the chief sales officer who's left, and I think it's a bit of a a non-event as far as we're concerned. It might bode well or ill, whichever way it goes for the marketing direction in the future. But I guess we just have to wait and see. So yeah, I think what I'm probably going to do is bid you farewell a little early because that'll help me get to bed and get ready for work, which is and be ready for work tomorrow, which is no bad thing. I don't think that's a bad thing at all. But yeah, we'll thank you ever so much for coming in on the first stream back. It's been interesting getting back in front of the camera. I don't feel like I'm in the swing of it yet, but I'm sure I will be soon. And look forward to seeing you all again for the video next week and on Sunday. Got to set this bit up for the standard outro. You've been watching Drinkers with Gaming Problems. Thank you very much for stopping by. I'll see you soon.